Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something really important, especially if you're involved with community-based organizations, CBOs.
Right.
We're looking at how they can handle the tricky world of cybersecurity laws and social media, basically without getting into trouble.
Yeah, and for you listening, if you like being informed about how things work, especially in the digital space, this is key. CBOs do vital work.
Absolutely.
And knowing how they can operate safely online, legally, well, that's just essential today. It's about trust, really.
And we've got a great guide for this, the Southern Africa Litigation Centre, SALC. They put together some really practical resources for CBOs on this.
They're doing excellent work there.
So our mission today is pretty straightforward. Pull out the key things CBOs need to know to stay safe online, all based on SALC's guidance.
Let's do it.
Okay, so first things first. Cybersecurity laws. What exactly are we talking about here, according to SALC?
Well, SALC frames them as the basic rules for online life. Think of them like digital road rules.
Okay, I like that. Digital road rules.
Yeah, they cover how digital info is shared, used, accessed. It includes e-commerce, software, data security.
So it's way broader than just, like, preventing hacking.
Oh, definitely. It also gets into freedom of expression online, privacy rights, and crucially, what counts as cybercrime and the penalties.
Right.
Which directly impacts how CBOs use platforms like social media. It's the legal framework for everything they do online.
Got it. So sticking with those digital road rules, privacy is massive for CBOs, isn't it? Especially those working with vulnerable groups. What does SALC highlight there?
This is super critical. SALC really stresses that organizations must know the specific privacy laws where they work.
Not just general ideas.
No, exactly. Because the risk is exposing the very people they're trying to help: children, marginalized groups, anyone in a sensitive spot.
Yeah, you can immediately see the danger.
Think about it. A quick social media post maybe seems innocent, but it could reveal a location, a detail.
That puts someone in harm's way.
Wow. Precisely. SALC says extreme care is needed. Handling or sharing anything on social media that could risk safety or privacy needs careful thought. Even tiny details matter.
It really makes you appreciate how much trust is involved, especially for CBOs handling sensitive information online.
It's a huge responsibility.
Okay, let's broaden out slightly. What about just general information risks on social media? What does SALC flag for CBOs?
Well, a big one SALC points to is just the sheer speed and ease with which inaccurate stuff spreads online.
Misinformation central sometimes.
Right. And it's often really hard to verify info before it gets shared again and again. This leads directly to the risk of spreading, fake news.
And that can blow up so fast.
Instantly. And for a CBO, sharing something false, even by accident, could mean defamation claims, maybe even arrest for the people involved.
Ooh.
So SALC's message is clear. Verify, verify, verify. Be incredibly careful before hitting share.
That share button needs a health warning.
Pretty much. And beyond fake news, there's copyright. Using images, music online without permission, that's a risk too.
Often overlooked, I bet.
Very often. And then, of course, avoiding cyberbullying and hate speech, which, sadly, we see way too much of.
Yeah.
Just think how quickly one piece of bad information could damage a CBO's reputation, the trust they've built. It's quite sobering.
It really is. Okay, let's get specific now. SALC looked at laws in Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi, Botswana, Eswatini. What kinds of cybercrimes related to social media should CBOs really be aware of there?
Right. This is where SALC drills down. They show how laws in these countries define specific online offenses. And sometimes the penalties are harsher than for offline crime.
Harsher? Wow.
Yeah. For social media, the laws often focus on, how information is used and communicated and what kind of expression is allowed.
Okay, so give us some examples. What are the big red flags?
Well, across all those countries, a major one is anything involving child exploitation, online child pornography, abuse material, grooming.
Which is horrific, obviously.
Absolutely. And SALC makes it clear, producing or sharing this stuff means serious jail time. Zambia, for instance, has a 15-year minimum for child pornography offenses. Grooming is also heavily criminalized.
Rightly so.
Then there's pornographic material more generally, especially revenge porn, sharing intimate images without consent. That's illegal everywhere SALC looked.
That's okay.
And in Zambia and Malawi, even general pornography producing or distributing it can be an offense.
So the definition might be broader in some places.
It can be. Then you get into things like cyberbullying, harassment, stalking, sometimes called offensive communication.
It sounds potentially vague.
It often is. The laws can be quite broad, using electronic means to harass, instill fear, cause distress. SALC points out this broad wording means it's potentially easy to cross a line without meaning to.
They could stumble into it.
That's the worry. Same goes for obscenity, indecency, stuff deemed to corrupt morals. Some countries, like Zimbabwe and Zambia, ban creating or sharing that.
But what is obscene or indecent?
Exactly. SALC notes the definitions often aren't clear, which creates, a high risk. The goalposts can seem fuzzy.
Okay, that's tricky. What about hate speech? CBOs often work on sensitive issues.
Crucial area. Most of these countries have laws against hate speech, dehumanizing language, denying genocide, racism, xenophobia, inciting violence.
So advocacy needs careful wording.
Very careful. Zimbabwe, for example, specifically prohibits inciting violence, property damage, or sending threatening messages online.
Got it. Any others?
Yeah, false news. Zimbabwe, again, criminalizes sharing false info intended to cause psychological or economic harm. That could mean up to 5 years in prison.
5 years, wow.
And Eswatini has specific laws on copyright infringement via electronic media. So yeah, basic social media actions can have really serious legal weight for CBOs in these places.
That's a lot to navigate. It really shows how different the online legal world can be place to place. And it brings up that global aspect, extraterritorial jurisdiction. What does SALC say about that?
Right. This is a really important catch. SALC explains that cybercrime laws often have extraterritorial jurisdiction.
Meaning
You could be prosecuted under a country's laws even if you're not a citizen or resident there, if the crime happened online and affected that country.
So a CBO in country A could face legal issues in country B for a social media post.
Potentially, yes. It shows how borders blur online. These laws can have global reach.
Definitely something to be aware of. Okay, so with all these risks, what practical steps does SALC suggest CBOs take? How can they protect themselves?
Thankfully, SALC gives some very clear, actionable advice. First up, always check copyright for media before using it. Obvious, maybe, but essential.
Right.
And really get to grips with the local privacy laws. Develop a clear safeguarding policy within the CBO.
Foundational steps. What else?
Be super careful when sharing, commenting, even just liking posts. Think about potential defamation or spreading fake news.
So pause before clicking.
Definitely. Also, create clear internal policies for social media and communications. Everyone needs to know the rules of engagement.
Makes sense, like an online code of conduct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
SALC also says CBOs should monitor their own online presence, see what's being said, deal with problem content,
Proactive monitoring.
and train staff regularly on the policies and the laws. Implement good digital security, protect your data, protect the people you serve, and finally have a public privacy policy. Be transparent.
That's a great list. Really practical stuff CBOs can actually do.
That's the goal of SALC's guidance, really,
Yeah.
making complex law actionable.
Well, this has been super insightful. Just to wrap up, cybersecurity laws, social media, they definitely pose risks for CBOs.
No doubt about it.
But as SALC shows, understanding these risks and taking those preventative steps we just talked about is absolutely vital and possible.
It is. And SALC's work in building that capacity for CBOs is just invaluable.
It really is commendable.
Well,
So for everyone listening, maybe a final thought. We see the power of social media for positive change.